Chapter 4 of Storm King Sunder is the most important session in your SKT campaign, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you when the villain Iymrith shows up and starts wrecking the place. I'm going to help you when the players are running away from this collapsing temple and snaking their way through a spider cavern. I'm going to help you when this random airship shows up to help the party. What's up with that? And I'm also going to help you right now with this room by room breakdown. But first, today's sponsor is Dragonheir, Silent Gods. With 10 million downloads already, just click the link below to join Drizzt and Guinevere on their own independent storylines. That's right, these iconic D&D characters from the world's most popular TTRPG are joining Dragonheir, Silent Gods. And this is just the first phase of the collaboration. There's more characters to come. This game is a dice hoarder's dream because you're rolling dice for all kinds of D&D things. Intimidation checks, persuasion checks, but my favorite, as soon as I realized that I could steal from pretty much any vendor, I went murder hobo on it. This guy just has milk, I'm taking it. When you're journeying with Drizzt and Guinevere, you'll find that Dragonheir is an open-world fantasy experience, and there is heaps of combat as well, which is great because when it comes time to roll initiative, the game rolls out this big grid, and you get to place all of your heroes in the best locations. So if you want to support the channel, click the link below to join D&D Legends in Dragonheir, Silent Gods. Now available on Mac, PC, Epic, Steam, iOS, and Android systems. Before you begin running this portion of the adventure, there needs to be a very specific state of play though. So you need to establish this immediately. The players are level 7. The players have some kind of interest in finding out questions from the Oracle at this temple, and the players have Harshnag the Frost Giant on their team, traveling with them. But if you haven't established those facts just yet, you need to do it immediately. Like pause the video and then text your players, hey, what up? You're level 7. How's your boy Harshnag? Do you want to ask some questions to an oracle? Done. Job done. As a brief overview of the dungeon here, here's what the players need to accomplish. We're trying to get from room 1 to room 11. In room 11, there is the Oracle of the Giants. That's where the players can ask their questions and find out what's going on with all this giant stuff. They start in room 1, they make their way through room 4 where they encounter some barbarians. Then in room 6, this is where the juice is. This is the main temple area and they will have to solve a puzzle. In order to solve the puzzle, they'll need to venture into room 7 down here where they face a Remoraz. I think that's how you say it. And they'll collect this dead Frost Giant's axe, go back up to room 7 and activate the portal which leads to the Oracle. Now, Harshnag waits outside the portal to kind of guard the entrance, and the players go in there to talk to the Oracle and ask their questions. And then, Iymrith rocks up. Oh no, what's she doing here? It's not random. If you watched that previous video about Iymrith's motivations and plans, you'll know she's here to ask questions of the Oracle herself. But she needed a true-blooded giant, like Harshnag, to open the portal for her. She shows up, Harshnag and her do battle, the temple starts to collapse, and the players have to do a big old mad dash to get out of there, when at the end, they are rescued by an airship. First things first, you've got to get a marching order, and do that by drawing a 3x5 grid on a blank piece of paper and getting the players to place themselves in a formation. This is the arrangement that the players are going to enter combat in. You can also determine who's at the front, and that's the person who's going to be rolling perception checks and face checking traps and all manner of nasty things. Room 1, 2, and 3 are all pretty much empty of meaningful content. It's just set dressing for what the players are entering in. Oh, it's a big temple, it's built for giants in scale, it's decrepit and frosty. But in room 3, if the player at the front has a high enough passive perception, they could overhear the words of these barbarians at room number 4. Where is Bothi? She's meant to be here by now. She said she was looking for another way in, but she must have died on the way. Oh, that Bothi always dying. Room number 4 is this massive door. It's frozen over, built for giants, and these 5 barbarians are chipping away at it, while a 6th barbarian watches on. This 6th barbarian is Wormblood, the leader of whatever these guys are called. Now, Wormblood has a very short lifespan, but he does have a bit of use. His job in this scene is to communicate the kind of options the players have here. So keep this in mind as you roleplay. Are the players going to get through this by just slaughtering all of the barbarians? I mean, come on. 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons and the players are just using violence to solve social problems? I don't think so. The second solution could be they might be able to negotiate their way through, and the third solution could be one of the players could challenge Wormblood to one-on-one combat. I imagine Wormblood having a similar kind of personality to that character from One Piece. You know, Heppo, he's got the Lancelot blonde haircut in the Netflix adaptation, and he is a real rat, a real snake. He's not strong, but he will fight anyone. He's so spiteful, like little man syndrome. And these barbarians have a very strange system of government. If you kill Wormblood, you are now the leader of the barbarians. Congratulations. What that would work out in roleplay is that if it was a full-scale combat, I imagine the barbarians would just flee and after this guy died, Wormblood. Or maybe if it was a duel, then the barbarians would swear fealty to the players and go across the land telling tales of their glory. I don't know exactly how the players could negotiate their way past this, but just keep yourself open to that possibility because players come up with all kinds of solutions. However, I just got to let you know, regardless of what deal Wormblood makes, he's a snake, he's a rat, he's not a nice man, and he will betray them. Room 5 and 5A and 5B, and this whole kind of area of portcullis and secret doors and arrow slits and all this defense stuff, none of it matters. This is empty content. There's no meaningful role playing to happen in these locations. So I would honestly just pull out a black marker and just scribble these bits off your map. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's just a waste of time for the players to investigate this area. So don't give the players the option to waste their own time. Room 6, this is where they've been hiding the juice. This is where it gets good, because room 6 is the temple proper. There's this huge statue of Annam, the All-Father, and then his 6 sons and daughters, each representing different giant types here. In each of their hands is held a different weapon, like a club for the hill giants, an axe for the frost giants, but the axe in the frost giant's hand is missing. Oh my goodness. This room is a puzzle. At the end of one side is this huge arch. This arch is clearly a threshold to some portal that is not currently active. Above the archway are 6 runes. Each rune denotes a different kind of giant. In fact, Harshnag sees one of them and goes, I know that word. I can read that one. It says frost giant. No idea what the other 5 could mean. The solution to this puzzle is that the appropriate giant must grab the appropriate weapon from the appropriate statue and then touch that appropriate weapon to the appropriate rune above the archway. Now, if any of this little equation, this equals that equals those, if any of this equation is incorrect, then some kind of damaging effect happens. Now, there is in the book this little table with different effects for every kind of incorrect answer. I don't care about this because some of these effects aren't particularly fun. I would just choose the damage of one of these, like one of them is like a bunch of fire stuff, meteors. Just choose a meteor swarm, but change the flavor of the element to match whatever giant they messed up. If the players are butting their heads against this puzzle and they can't work it out, if they take more than 2 rounds of this meteor swarm, then I would suggest you just let Harshnag finally work it out. He goes, I think I probably need to find wherever the frost giant's weapon is and touch it to that rune. Okay, let's look for that axe. The axe is down in room 7. By the way, I kind of hate this puzzle. I don't like it very much. It just seems boring to me. So on Patreon, I made a very special little thing, which is alternate puzzles for this location. You can get it for $6. It's available to patrons right now. Man, this light is really blasting me. Oh, it hurts. However, there's one thing you need to nail in room 6 first. This is an important bit of foreshadowing. At some point when you're role-playing in this room, Harshnag says, yeah, this is great. I'm going to go scout ahead. I'm just going to pop up here into room room 8, and he pops open the door, and the players immediately hear this huge thud, a huge crash, as Harshnag smashes a giant frost spider to death. He immediately returns, holding the crushed corpse of this spidery boy, and says, something burrowed through the corridor over there. There's a huge hole in the wall, and this bloody spider came out. Oh, well, we can keep that in mind if we ever need to find an alternate exit out of here, because that tunnel probably leads outside. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, foreshadowing. And it's also a cute little justification for how the Remoraz in room 7 actually got into the temple. It's probably the creature that burrowed through the caverns that have become the Frost Spider Caverns. So, the players want to solve the puzzle. They're heading down to room 7. Room 7 is this massive hall, and you're going to use this as an opportunity to really lean on the theme of the scale of giants, because these are some big boys. So when you're describing the furniture and the setting in this room, I just want you to imagine, as a little writing exercise, imagine what it would be like for a cat to walk into your lounge room and the scale of things. They would probably be about like up to knee height. So just keep that in mind. The players are cats in this room. There's a few key features. For one, the floor is all turbulent and frosty and icy because around this room, the Remoraz has been burrowing. If any players have a nice passive perception, they will easily notice that on the roof, every square inch of the roof is covered in eggs, massive alien-style face-hugger eggs. Oh no, what's going to happen? Across the other side of the room, the players can see a dead frost giant with an axe peacefully resting on his knees. Now, there's no backstory for this frost giant, but I like to imagine him as similar to that character from David Gemmel's book, Legend. This old adventurer, this legendary warrior, has finally earned a peaceful life, and he's on a farm, but one day he decides, I don't want to die on a farm peacefully, I want to die in battle. And so he grabs his axe and just goes out for one last adventure so he can finally die. I imagine that's what this frost giant did, and he died in this room. And here's the thing about the Remoraz. If you have 5 level 7 players versus this CR11 single big bug creature, I think your players will wreck this monster, because there's only one Remoraz and 5 players. For every 5 turns the players get, the Remoraz only gets 1. So yeah, it could do a lot of damage to a single character, but it's not a threat to the party at all. So I'm suggesting if you have 5 or more players, you buff it up. Here's my suggestion. 1, the Remoraz has a burrowing speed. So I'm suggesting you start burrowed. It has tremor sense, maybe it scents the players in the other room, so it burrows underground and hides. It doesn't need to roll a stealth check, it's out of sight, it's completely out of vision of the players. Then, when they're in an opportune location, it will pop up. It's not going to get a surprise round though. A surprise round only happens when you are not expecting combat, like if you are at camp or asleep. In this case, the players are walking around a dangerous dungeon. They probably have weapons drawn. There's no way they're going to get surprised. But it is an unseen attack, so that first attack it makes, give it advantage. I'd also suggest you give it a single legendary resistance. This is so the players can't just end the fight with a save or suck spell like Halt a Monster. And here is the really fun bit of this encounter. I'm suggesting you give this creature 2 legendary actions. That means at the end of 2 different players' turns throughout each round, it can summon one of the eggs to crack. High above the players, there is an egg on every single square of combat. And it goes, that egg's hatching, maybe it spits acid up there or something, and then it hatches and out falls one of these pierces. Now, in the D&D lore, these pierces are meant to mature into ropers, but they can also act like baby Remoraz. That's fine, I don't care. This thing is going to deal damage pretty much equal to the amount that it falls. So 3 damage per 10 feet that it falls. And that means at this height of 60 feet, it's going to be dealing 18 damage if it hits the player. If it misses, then it takes the damage instead. Now, these creatures, after they've fallen, they only have 5 feet of movement, and I'm going to say that they can just try and bite people's ankles and deal 3 damage each hit if they hit. But the strategy here for the players is once an egg has popped above a square, then there's no more egg above that square to hatch. So that is a safe place for them to stand. After this fight, the players can grab the axe and they can head back to room 6, solve the puzzle, activate the portal, and then head in. Now, here are some big differences that I'm suggesting for this module. The first massive change I'm suggesting is that Harshnag does not enter the oracle space. Maybe he makes an excuse about, I've done too much wrong in my life, I do not deserve to go into that holy place. Or maybe he says, you guys go in, I'm gonna watch the door to protect you. Or maybe he just says, nah, because we need Harshnag to be there for Iymrith to confront. Now, when the players go in, the book wants there to be a dead giant on the ground and his ghost floating with a quest marker on his head. But we're going to cut that content entirely because that quest marker is meant to lead to an entirely different module. It's meant to lead to Tyranny of Dragons. And it is a really good quest hook. Like, I like the quest hook, but I want to play Storm King's Thunder. Tyranny of Dragons is great, but at the moment we're playing Storm King's Thunder. So get out of here, ghost. And then the players have the opportunity to ask their 6 questions of the oracle. But here's another massive change that I'm suggesting. The book wants the players to prove their worth to the oracle, who I am imagining just being the oracle from The Matrix. And and this way to prove their worth is just a fetch quest. They're meant to go to one of the barbarian mounds, grab some giant artifact and bring it back. I'm not doing that. We just got here and you want me to leave to go get the thing that you don't have? Get it yourself. You know, DoorDash it. So we're scratching that. The oracle is down to clown and totally ready to answer 6 questions. Here's something really tricky though, and I don't even have meaningful advice to give you on this particular moment. You need to steer the players towards productive questions. You need to steer them towards productive answers. You need the players to know that their next step is to go speak to the storm giants to try and restore order here, because there is evil lurking in that throne room. Players need to know that in order to get to the storm giant castle in Maelstrom, the players need to find one of these conch shells held by the giant lords. Every giant lord has a conch shell. If you blow it, you and your 5 best mates get a one-way trip to Maelstrom beneath the ocean. This is something given to the giant lords by the storm giants in case they're ever summoned to court. And I'm strongly suggesting that the closest conch shell that the players can go get is held by Duke Zelto, the fire giant of Iron Slag, because that's the content I'm going to give you a guide for. But then, something dramatic happens. The players overhear a conversation between their friend, I just kicked my firewood. They hear a conversation between their friend, Harshnag, and a strange storm giant that has just rocked up. This is Iymrith, the blue dragon in disguise. She has a very tense conversation with Harshnag. She's arrived because she was waiting for somebody that is a true giant to activate this portal so that she could go in and ask the oracle her own questions for her own reasons, which we discussed in that previous video. In this moment, she reveals herself to be an ancient blue dragon, gargantuan in size. She starts to fight Harshnag. She uses her powers of statue animation to animate that huge statue of the Allfather. And then Harshnag, heroically, to give the players time to escape and to stop this gargantuan dragon, deliberately chips away at that statue of the Allfather. Now that is desecrating this statue. This is a sin that he is committing, and the temple collapses in retribution. Stones start to fall down, everything's shaking, and their mate Harshnag is going, "Run! Protagonists! Get out of here, protagonists! You go on without me, protagonists!" I think you should treat this scene like a cutscene in a video game where these 2 characters have a very tense conversation that the players can overhear. And this is something you can prepare and write out verbatim as part of your session prep, because this is going to demonstrate and make sure you 100% understand the villain's motivations. You can establish her personality by demonstrating how disrespectful she is to a lowly frost giant. You can demonstrate her cruelty by how she revels in the revelation that she is actually an ancient blue dragon and Harshnag is outmatched. And you can demonstrate her hubris by having her James Bond style Explain her plan to him before she transforms. Now comes this fun mini game. It's kind of a modified skill challenge as the players escape. The way this is going to work is that the players will make only athletics checks. This is a challenge for those strong barbarian boys. So every round, at every junction, they're going to roll an athletics check to determine how well they run. If they get more than a 12, they succeed. If they get less, they fail. And every time they fail, they're going to take some kind of hazard damage, depending on where they are in the chase. For example, if they're inside the temple, that damage is probably a rock falling on their head. Or if they are in the spider caverns, that damage is probably, you got bit by a spider. But it could be any kind of trap you imagine, or whatever devious locations you include on this trail. There's also the matter of damage. I kind of like the idea that on subsequent failures, they take more and more damage. Like, you've only failed one time? Here, roll 2d4, you take that much damage. Your second fail, 2d6, then 2d8, 2d10, 2d12. Are you still alive? You must be a barbarian. And let's bring their constitution modifier into it as well. So when you look at their con, I'm not talking about like 14, which is their ability score. I'm talking about their modifier, which would be +2. That is the number of times they can fail a skill check in this challenge before they get hit with 1 point of exhaustion. But do not go beyond 1 point of exhaustion, because past then it can get really, really dangerous. So there are 2 routes the players could take to get out of here. The first route is very obvious. It's the way they came in. The only problem with this is that there's a gargantuan ancient blue dragon fighting a frost giant in the way. So this is probably the more dangerous route. The second route is that they could go up through room 8 and then through the spider caverns in room 9, which you foreshadowed earlier. But let's talk about that first route. If the players start making noises about, let's just run past the dragon or whatever, you have a duty of care as a dungeon master. You need to make sure that they know how big gargantuan is. Literally pull out the monster manual and show them that picture of the different scales. Hey, this is gargantuan. You're trying to sneak past this or outrun this thing. And then make sure to mention it is an ancient blue dragon. And if they consent still, mate, it's their graves. When they choose to exit out the front door, we're only going to ask for a single athletics check, because this is a much shorter, much more direct route. Now, if they succeed on this one, it's going to carry over to the next roll they have to make, a dexterity save, because Iymrith is going to use her lightning breath weapon to blast anybody attempting this route. So they need to succeed on a DC 23 dex save, or take like 16 D10 damage, or half on a save. It's just so many dice. So it's probably going to knock some people unconscious. So there's also rules for what happens if you drop down in this situation. Imagine this is like, we're all running together, we're all side by side, but I don't notice that the wizard has just gotten obliterated by that lightning blast that just hit us. So if I want to go grab his unconscious body, I actually need to turn around, go back towards the dragon, and grab him to drag him out like it's Hacksaw Ridge. Now, the thing with this is, dragons have an ability called Frightening Presence, and never has that been more true than for an ancient blue dragon. So if they want to turn around to grab a fallen ally, they need to make a DC 20 wisdom save. And if they fail that, the frightened condition means that they are physically unable to move in the direction of the source of their fear. At that point, Iymrith isn't done punishing this heroism. She hates heroes. She will hit that single player that ran back with a single tail attack. If they survive that, then they can save their friend. You're out of there. They're much more likely to take the much safer second route. This is through room 8 and then through the spider caverns. So this is going to be either 3 athletics checks or 4 athletics checks, depending on the decisions they make, because we're going to tempt them with treasure and NPCs and all kinds of choices along the way. Their first roll is as they go from room 8 to room 9, which is the hole in the wall. At that point, I want you to say to the players, hey, at the end of this long corridor, you can see there's actually some kind of treasure or some kind of glistening item up there at the very dead end of it. If you want to run to safety in this cave, you can do that. You can make your roll. But if you want to like really guarantee that you're going to get hit by a rock, you can run to the end of the hallway and try and grab this item first. Now, players can deliberately choose to fail the athletics check to go get this item. What they don't know is that in the process, they will trigger the boulder trap in this room. And you can run that boulder trap, the damage, as normal. It's going to hit them or it's not going to hit them, and they're going to save or they're not going to save. And at the end of this corridor, they find just whatever you want. I've cut a lot of content. I've cut a lot of content from this dungeon. There's meant to be some magic items in different places. Pretty much anything that I've cut from this dungeon, loot-wise, that you go, oh, I wish the players had that, just put it here, okay? The second roll is going to be in the spider cavern. This is when the players head to an intersection of this way or that way. From this way, they can hear a woman calling for help. From this way, they can feel the cool air of outside. So this way will lead them quicker to safety. But on this direction lies heroism. The third roll is when they run up here to this lady and they see her trapped in spiderwebs in a cocoon with her head sticking out. She's calling for help and she's guarded by whatever spiders are in this room according to the book. She is wearing a golden +2 breastplate. This is some loot that was cut from earlier in the dungeon and it's just too good not to include. This is Bothi. She is a barbarian shaman and the book says that if she is rescued then she like hates the players because they killed her friend or whatever. But that sucks. I think if you rescue someone, they should be super stoked about it. So if they rescue her, she becomes a mate. She's willing to become a battle companion and help them in battle. And she'll even give them her sick armor that she found along the way here. However, entering this room does not guarantee that the players have to fight those spiders. They could choose to just leave her there, in which case they keep running to leave this place. But if they do choose to rescue her, they have to fight the spiders in normal combat. And then we have that dramatic sprint, the last homeward stretch of this tunnel, as the walls are collapsing around them and spiders are coming out of the wall and biting their necks like vampires, sprinting towards the light. This is the last athletics check you roll. And as they exit this location, they come face to a cliff. Oh man, are they gonna fall off? Are they doomed? Is this the end? No, because coming up from beneath that cliff face is a big red balloon attached to an airship, baby. And Delphine extends the hand from the deck of this ship and says, "You boys need a lift?" And that is where I would end the session personally. Hey, Wackadoo, did you like this video? Then please support the sponsor, Dragonheir, Silent Gods. Thank you so much. Click the link in the description. Also, find my stuff on Patreon. I've got some puzzles here that you might like. But if you want to keep running Storm King's Thunder and you want more Storm King's Thunder content, then click this video. This is all about Iymrith and her motivations as a villain. Click, click, click.